Hi everyone, I'm Erica Desper of Confident Parenting, and I help families get more sleep. Today I wanted to continue the video series on my top reasons why your child didn't sleep well last night. If you're just jumping in on this video, make sure you look for the first one on reason number 1, when bedtime falls too late, and video number 2 on nap deprivation, not getting enough daytime sleep. However, if you feel like you have both of those things in place, then there may be some other things to consider when trying to figure out why your child didn't sleep well last night. So what I want to talk about in this video is reason number 3, and that is when your child's wakeful windows are too long. What in the world does that mean? What are wakeful windows? It's just a fancy term that we use to describe how long your child can comfortably be awake in between sleep periods. And of course, these windows that your child can comfortably manage are different through the ages and stages. When you have a baby who's just born, the windows are teeny, teeny, tiny. They can kind of just stay awake long enough to eat and get changed, and then they go right back down. As they start to get a little bit older, they spend more time awake in between. And then, of course, eventually they're awake all day and we're missing the nap. So it can be a little tricky to determine at the various ages and stages what your child's wakeful windows are. But before we even talk about that, let's find out why the windows are important. And if you watch the first 2 videos, some of this you're going to start to recognize, but everything does kind of tie together. When we talk about the windows, again, we're really talking about how long can my child comfortably be awake and in between sleep. And what we want to understand is what happens when your child spends more time awake than what is truly comfortable. And it helps to know that not all children will let us know at all, and not all children will let us know loud and clear when that window is kind of starting to close. So it would be nice if they would sort of send us a memo or raise up a red flag and say like, hey mom, my window's closing. You need to get a move on my nap routine. But many of them don't. In fact, a lot of the babies that come to me, that's the biggest thing that the parents are having trouble with is either their child doesn't show any sleepy cues at all, or they show them very inconsistently. Maybe for nap number 1, they let you know now loud and clear, and for nap number 2, they didn't show anything at all, and it seemed like they could stay awake forever. Even more common, what I run into, and I help families sort out, is the fact that your child may be showing sleepy cues, but they're actually waiting to show those cues until the window has already closed, which is not particularly helpful. We kind of need them to make it smooth for us and smooth for them. We need them to not only show signals loud and clear, but show them on the early side of tired rather than the late side of tired. But if you have a child that you would describe as very pleasant, very easygoing, very mild-mannered, which is wonderful, those tend to be the kids that are a little bit trickier to determine and match their windows, because they say, I'm fine, don't worry about me, until they're really not fine anymore. And by then, we're going to have a much harder time getting them down initially and then keeping them down soundly because their window had already closed. So that's what we're really talking about with the wakeful windows. Whatever your child's window is, once they have exceeded it, they've stayed awake longer, then they can comfortably manage on the inside. There's a whole process that kicks off, as I talked about in the first 2 videos. The body kind of senses that feeling of going past its prime and getting a little too tired, and it kicks into overdrive and says, we got to find a way to keep going. I've got this. We can do this. And it gives them essentially a second wind. And that second wind can have 2 repercussions. You can have a child who struggles to fall asleep because they're fighting against this revved up feeling, and or you can have a child who struggles to stay asleep through the transitions, the natural transitions that we have in our sleep cycles, because this sort of revved up feeling is rearing its ugly head throughout the nap or throughout the night. I like to think of this hormone process as that little pink Energizer bunny that keeps going and going and going. Once the bunny has come out, we're going to keep seeing it over and over and over again until those hormones kind of get out of your baby's system or your child's system. So I would encourage you to kind of think of your child's level of tiredness as a wave in the ocean. If you were heading out to surf right now and you were choosing a wave to ride or catch or whatever the appropriate lingo is, you'd clearly want to choose a wave that is just starting to build so that you could have a nice smooth ride up with it, What you wouldn't probably want to do is choose a wave that's already peaking and crashing and cresting and doing its thing, because you are going to crash into it and it's not going to be a very smooth ride. And unbeknownst to us, that's often what we're doing when we are attempting to get our baby or child down for a nap or for the night, is that we're kind of crashing into the wave instead of riding up with it. So if that rings true, especially if your child is visibly tired, but then they tend to fight your efforts to get them down, you may be running into that second wind or that little Energizer bunny, or crashing into the wave, so to speak. And it may help, instead of following your child and waiting for those cues that they might not show you, or if you think that they're showing their cues on the late side of tired rather than the early side of tired, you may want to just take a few days to do exactly what you're doing right now to get them down, but just try it sooner. Try it 15 minutes sooner, try it 30 minutes sooner. What you're really looking for is there a sweet spot where everything goes more smoothly and more quickly? And if so, that will help you determine where their ideal window really falls and where it closes, and you can follow the clock a little bit more than following maybe your inconsistent child's cues, or cues that they might be hiding from you. So it really does help to understand that there is a window and it does close, and once it has closed, we're going to have a harder time not only probably getting them down, but they're going to have a harder time sleeping soundly throughout the night. And it's also important to note, especially if you're following this series of videos, that these issues are similar, but they are different. We can run into a scenario where the window to bedtime is actually ideal. Your child has not been awake for too long. I'm sorry, bedtime is not falling too late, but your child's been awake for too long. So we can have a scenario where bedtime is too late on the clock, but the window is right, or where bedtime is in the right spot on the clock, but the window has been too long and your child's grown overtired for that reason. And sometimes families have a little bit of both going on. So it's sort of a delicate balance of finding your child's sweet spot on the clock for bedtime, but also ensuring that their ideal window of wakefulness is not being exceeded to get to that time on the clock. We really need to match both up. And then, of course, as we mentioned in the other video, all the timing of bedtime in the world isn't going to matter if they didn't get enough nap sleep during the day. So it's really a delicate balance of all three. So reason number 3 that your child didn't sleep well last night is that wakeful windows might be too long. And determining what your child's ideal wakeful window is can be really helpful. If you feel like you have all these things under control already, then make sure that you stick around for video number 4. I'll give you my 4th top reason why your child didn't sleep well last night. And if you really just can't sort this out on your own, then come and find me. I do work with families one-on-one. We'll figure out what in the world is preventing your little one from sleeping and get your family sleep on a better track. So thanks for joining me, and stick around for the next video, and I'll be back soon.